Installation. Let's play.
Hello, DevOps friends! It's Thursday and I'm back online. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor. Welcome to my live stream. Today we're going to do a mix of things. I'm definitely going to continue preparations for my free Linux course that's going to start next week, Thursday next week at 6 p.m. Dublin time. You can get more information using the !linuxcourse command. Should work on all three streaming channels. And I'm also going to do some Ruby on Rails coding today for my business, which is called FreeSteelBox. It's a managed hosting platform for Drupal and WordPress, and we've built the customer dashboard using Ruby on Rails, which is what we are going to do today. And hey, hello Swapcat, welcome to the channel. How's your day so far? Yeah, to make this clear from the start, while I can talk on end, I'd appreciate this stream if it's a two-way thing. It shouldn't just be the mentor monologue. And so if there's anything that you'd like to share or ask, feel free to pop into chat and say hello and ask your questions. I'm more than happy to try and answer them. And tomorrow we're of course going to have our office hour at the same time as today, about 2 p.m. Dublin time. I'm going to do my office hour live stream where I do nothing but answer questions from you viewers, and I'm already looking forward to that as well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's a lot of stuff we need to do today. If you are not yet familiar with it, I've decided to do a free online course for basic Linux system administration. We'll do weekly live lectures, and that's going to start next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. Dublin time, 7 p.m. Central European time. And yeah, these are the topics that we're going to cover: Linux fundamentals, file management, user administration, process management, package management, networking, monitoring, basic shell scripting, security, and backup. So if you are interested in that, enter !Linux course and you'll get the URL where you can sign up and stay up to date on our live lecture schedule and everything else as well. Simply enter !Linux course, all in one word, and you'll get all the details. And I'll have to do a little bit of work on that course as well. I'm not even sure if I have set up a repository on my work VM here. So let's get this started. I always start sessions for my dot files because I need to change them very often. And then, yes, there is the courses website, which of course needs to be updated because I've done a lot of work on my workstation. There we go. And there is not a Vim session yet. That should be changed. There we go. Swampcat, you said you are interested in the Linux course. What exactly interests you? And yeah, well, let me use this opportunity to get a little bit of feedback from you. What is it you're interested in? What would you like to achieve? How would this course be a success for you? I just realized the fact that this is an instructor-led course and not just a free video series or something like that should actually be highlighted a little bit more than I previously did. So I'll have to do a little bit of social media posting about this as well. Okay, so what I'd like to do is go into Module 1, because that's of course what we're going to start with on Thursday next week. And I'd like to check if I did actually set up enough slides to guide us through the course. If you're wondering what this is that I'm editing here, well, this is actually a Jekyll website, so it's a markdown source code, but I've built myself a few Jekyll plugins that allow me to intersperse slides right into the course material. So whenever there is this slide and slide block, that's going to be a slide. It's not going to be included in the web page, and I can show you how this looks like. Yeah, I can run this locally, so let's... Oh, we haven't even installed the necessary gems yet. Not even the necessary Ruby version. Okay, RBN. Do we need OpenSSL? Let's try this. We need... which version do we need? 345, right? So yeah, while this is installing, let me check with chat. Swampcat says, I work in IT, but have only had the opportunity to dabble with Linux at work. I know some basics, but I needed to be muscle memory to go further with projects and land a DevOps role. So hopefully the course would be an opportunity to reinforce that knowledge in practice. Exactly. That is exactly what this course is going to be all about. And I'm definitely lean towards practical information, practical knowledge, skills that you can use to get deeper into DevOps, into SRE, into system administration in general. And this whole course is based on 30 years of experience with Linux. I've been using Linux since 1993, and I've worked at leading internet service providers as an IT manager for Linux operations, and for the last 15 years I've been running a business as a managed hosting provider for Drupal and WordPress, where we also run hundreds of Linux servers for our customers. And so this is very much based in my practical experience, and I hope to be able to share a lot of that with you during the course. Shaco asks, I love Ruby on Rails. Are you going to create a course for it? Eventually I might, actually. I love Ruby. I got into Ruby via system administration, because when I started my hosting business, I knew, okay, we need some automation. I won't be able to manually run more than maybe a handful of servers, and so we needed some automation, and I chose Chef for it, which was a pretty new configuration management software back then. Starting out with Chef, it worked nicely for our system management, and then I realized, well, those recipes, those server automation scripts that you build with Chef, that's actual Ruby. And so I got deeper into Ruby and basically fell in love with it. I really love that language. So much so that when I decided to learn another statically compiled language and typed language, I ended up deciding to learn Crystal, because Crystal is very much based on the Ruby syntax, and it's a compiled statically typed language. So it'll basically add just the things that I'm missing from Ruby. And so I really, really like it, which is the basis for my answer. Yeah, I will eventually create a course for it, but course preparation and creating course materials is so much work, and I'm doing it outside of my day job, that it'll at least be 2026 or even 2027 until I'll be able to run a Ruby on Rails course as well. For the time being, I'm going to focus on my beginner Linux course here. And the Ruby version is now installed, which should enable me to run bundle install to get all the dependencies. Sheko, what do you love about Ruby on Rails? What is it that you really, really like? I mean, there are many things. I'm just curious what it is for you. And now we should be able to Jekyll Zerf. Okay. And that means we should be able to run localhost 4000. Here we go. Lindsys 1 is my basic Linux system administration course. And these course materials are actually online at courses.monospacementor.com. I only published a few of my sections here because the full Linux course materials will only be available to members of the server room. Speaking of, Pixel Buttercup, hello! How you doing? Pixel Buttercup says, I used to hate Ruby on Rails and then I tried it and loved it. I felt like my own way of vibe coding. How can you hate Ruby on Rails without having tried it out first? Don't judge a book by its cover. Alright, so the section that we're going to cover next week is the Linux Fundamentals section here. And so you can see this is the website that gets generated by Jekyll. And here we have the section 1.1, Introduction to Linux and Open Source. The table of contents gets generated automatically by Jekyll, and then we go into Overview and Objectives, and so on and so on. And as you can see, the first heading that I typed here is Overview and Objectives, and then Learning Objectives. But the slide blocks that I interspersed here don't get included in the actual web page. They get generated as a separate page. I can show you that as well by scrolling right to the bottom of this page. Here I get a link, slides. This link only appears in my local version. It's not on the web. And that allows me to launch another web page that just has my slides in it. And so I can go and go through the slides. And the great thing is that these slides are part of my course materials. So if I, say, change a few chapters around or update a section, I have the slide content right there and can update that as well. Just people saying it's bad and me believing it. Yeah, I mean, depending on the time when that happened, maybe it was when Ruby on Rails really got beaten because of Twitter dropping it. Twitter did start out based on Ruby on Rails, and then they claimed Ruby on Rails didn't scale enough, and so they changed their code base. I'm not sure what they chose then. Did they switch to Go or something? But yeah, that got a lot of damage done to Ruby on Rails' image, even though there are many other websites that pretty much prove that you can scale Ruby on Rails application. I mean, GitHub, for example, being a great counterpoint there. So what I'd like to do is simply go through my course materials here and make sure I have enough slides to guide us through this whole thing. And so it's that there is a flow, and that's important because we only have limited time. I have scheduled to maximum 3 hours on a Thursday night for me to do this live course, and that means we need to get through a whole module if possible during that time, and that means I need to really get into a flow and get going and not get stuck with a specific detail point. Yeah, Pixel Buttercup, that's absolutely understandable. I lived through those times as well, and especially if you haven't yet understood how Ruby on Rails thinks and how it's doing its what is it, convention over configuration, then it's easy to get turned off. That's a great point, actually. By the time you really need to think about scaling issues with Ruby on Rails, your website and the business behind it should be successful enough to warrant having that problem and solving that problem. I agree. It's really nice. My only problem with Ruby on Rails is its inventor, and I'm not in the situation. But if I were to do another project, then I might actually try out Hanami, which is another Ruby-based web framework, and I think it's really, really interesting in the way it does things differently to Rails. And I think I could be happy using Hanami as well. Braxea is joining us. Hello, good morning. How's it going? Another member of the server room, my community of practice. If you are interested in growing your career, in getting into DevOps, in getting into site reliability engineering, a membership in the server room is definitely a good investment, because in this community, everyone is super helpful. We are very friendly and inclusive, and there are a lot of perks that you get by being a member. One of them being free access to my cohort-based courses, to all course materials, to events like our monthly community hangouts, and other perks. So check out the serverroom.sh if you are interested. Proxea says it's going well. That's great to hear. Happy to see it. Polling the nerds on terminal emulators. What exactly are you looking for? And another thing that I'd like to look out for is that I don't fill up my slides too much. You know what? I think each of these 3 points here deserves its own slide. So, we could make this a full heading, and then we'll create 3 slides from this. That's transparency. Then we have freedom. Oh wait, no, that's community collaboration. I think I need another section or a paragraph on the freedom aspect. Praxeus asks, does anyone have a use case where they care about the core functionality, or is it whatever works where you actually perform? In the context of terminal emulators? I'm not really sure what you mean. Are we talking about terminal emulators like iTerm on Mac, or Ghosty and Alacrity and all these terminal emulators, such as the one I'm working in right now? Okay. So my perspective on terminal emulators is basically whatever works. I try to be as independent of the terminal emulator as possible, and that's quite easy by using Tmux, for example, because that should work in all yeah, it should basically work in all terminal emulators anyway, even in Xterm, I guess. And the actual software that I choose is mostly how easy is it to configure, and that's why I'm, of course, and it shouldn't have any issues, and that's why, for example, I switched from Westterm to Ghosty. Westterm had a few issues, even though configuration was great. Since it's using Lua as its configuration language, you could actually do some nifty things, like, for example, host-dependent configuration, host-specific configuration. However, it doesn't seem to run properly 100% on Wayland, at least not on my Wayland, and so I switched to Ghosty. Ghosty has a single configuration file, and it's easy to set up, and it's performant, does everything it needs to, and so yeah, Ghosty is my terminal emulator of choice at the moment. I don't look for any specific features like terminal multiplexing, window management, and things like that, because, as I said, that's what I install Tmux for. And even though all modern terminals claim that they are very fast with hardware acceleration and stuff like that, I'm not sure if I would even notice, because I don't do anything very fast in my terminal. Especially not typing, as you can see. So here we already have a sentence on freedom. Should probably mention OSI in here, the Open Source Institute. No, Open Source Initiative. Maybe I can get guess that's what I'm looking for. So we can make this a link, the Open Source Initiative. Nope. We can say one of the most important activities of the Open Source Initiative is as a standard open source definition. Why did we switch to hardware mode? Why does my spacebar not work? I'm an idiot. Getting confused by my own Vim shortcuts. Most of the Open Source Initiative, and let's just grab the main address here. Oops, this is as a standards body maintaining the open source definition, and I guess it's a good idea to link to that too. Okay, let's see how this looks like. Let's go right up here. Yep. Cool. And in my slides, we now have open source philosophy, freedom to modify and redistribute, source code transparency and access, which also allows great efficiency in building and maintaining the software with the famous quote, many eyes make all bugs shallow, and then community collaboration and peer review. Should the quote be under here? Well, there's an overlap, definitely. So let's do another slide here about business. advantages. Yeah, I can see that my number of slides is going to explode here. Actually, it says it's nice to close this page of notes. Terminals used to be so important to computing. They still are. We are still working in them, at least in emulated ones. But it was, I guess it was never really about the feature set, was it? I mean, the first terminals, teletypes, didn't have any features apart from the main functionality of showing text on paper, that is, and entering text on a typewriter keyboard. And the glass terminals then simply replaced paper with CRT. Which means I could basically still work with VT 200, 300 terminal if I had to. All I need is a keyboard and a screen to type on. So... I guess I'll go through that list as it is. It's not something I want to particularly dwell on. Distribution families, yeah, we can talk about that. And then there's the relevant part about modern infrastructure, cloud platforms, containers, all that stuff. One of the reasons why I decided to use Jekyll is these callouts that I can simply include here, and they get rendered so nicely when I go back to the text here, where I can simply say the next paragraph is knowledge, and then it makes this brain emoji, good to know, and it gets highlighted with a color, background color. That makes things so much more enticing to read, that I really, really like that. I'm still considering turning this also into a book using LeanPub, and that has its own advantages. But this web-based publishing, where I can simply make a few changes to a markdown file, and then everything gets turned into this nicely laid out web page, that is definitely something that I really, really love. So here we go. And then there's the assessment that I still need to turn into a VVox, into an interactive quiz. I'm going to use VVox for that. And I think this section has already been turned into a VVox quiz, but we'll have to do the same for the other sections as well. Learning objective definitely should have its own slide overview. So I'll type the summary myself. objectives, set up a VM, use the Fedora installer, disk partitioning, user account creation, and setup verification. Let's keep the notes in. Backspace in this terminal. Speaking of old terminals and issues with backspace, something that I found really amazing the other day was that there are people who are actually 3D printing the type balls for old IBM Selectric typewriters. They have this. They don't use the historical lever mechanism. They use balls that get turned around to hit the right type. And people have started to 3D print newer type balls with Comic Sans font or other fonts that you can actually put into an IBM Selectric typewriter if you still have one, and do that. And that's absolutely amazing. One of these Selectric typewriters was where I learned to type, because my mum was working from home as a secretary, and she got one of these Selectric typewriters, massive machines, with, they made a real racket when they were typing, but yeah, they were great to use. That was an electrical typewriter. Later she got an electronical from what was it? Triumph? Not sure. That had a small LCD row where you could start typing into, and only when you hit enter then it would print out the line, so you could edit your line before submitting it to the actual typewriter. That was amazing as well, and I used that a lot. I had to print out or write a lot of stuff for the youth group I was managing, and so yeah, I really learned that, I guess, when I was 12, 13. Back then I wasn't really managing the whole group, but I took over writing schedules and newsletters and stuff. And when I was... it might even have been later, when I already had my own computer, but not a printer yet. And so I might have been 15, 16 by that time, when I still was using a typewriter to do these things. And only when we got a PC and a printer, then I was able to make things easier by using first a word processor, and then I started programming and auto-generating schedules and things like that. Pixel Buttercup rejoining us, no worries. Are you using Jekyll? I love it. I tried moving to Hugo when I got it into Go, but I feel Ruby templates are way better structured than Go ones. Haven't used Go templates much yet, so I can't judge actually. But yes, I'm using Jekyll. The nice thing is that I can actually write my course materials here in Markdown, which I could, of course, do with any static site generator. The nice thing is, it being Ruby-based, I was able to write my own plugin that would take these slide and slide blocks, take them out of the document, and create Reveal.js-based slides from that, so that I can edit everything in one document with all the slides, and the output will be the standard web page, as well as a page that is laid out as slides and interactive and everything. Really enjoying that. I should keep an ear out for my kids who are about to come home from school. You built a knowledge base in Jekyll. Yeah, that's amazing. It's so great. Just throwing in a bunch of Markdown files and getting a nicely laid out website from it. Actually, we do use Jekyll with this Just the Docs theme for our company's customer documentation as well. And we simply deploy to GitHub pages, or GitLab pages for that matter. And so we don't have to worry about hosting either. That it's just a lot of fun. And I mean, creating documentation can't be more frictionless. You simply type into a Markdown file, commit the change, push it, and everything else happens by itself. What did just happen? I think my Firefox crashed. Suddenly, quite a few windows closed on me here. So let's see. Can I get them back? Oh yes, there are quite a few of them. So we'll have to move stuff around a little bit. That's that. And you go over here. Okay, that should do it. And you go up here. All right. Maybe we can close a few tabs. Let me see. directives. Let me get a little bit distracted here. Give me just a second. I know. I know. Oh, that's okay. Okay. Let's close this. All right. Is there anything else? Okay. All right, so we are back. Stuff is back to normal, whatever the baseline for normal is. I guess. The main thing is, in this case here, installation, that I need an up-to-date image of Fedora workstation, which is something that I could already do. Fedora workstation download. Doing this off screen because the download needs to go somewhere else. Intel and AMD. Live ISO. There we go. All right. Now, next section, Linux architecture. That's a more interesting section in terms of slides, because of course the Linux installation section is mostly practical, with me explaining a lot of background. But here it's good to have another slide deck again. Linux architecture. We don't even have to call this overview, just Linux architecture is enough. And then we need another objective section. No idea why I didn't include those from the get-go. Slides. And slides. And now we need a little bit of content in between. Objectives. Kernel and user space. FHS. Shell environments. System processes. Hardware. Abstraction. That's that. I think it makes reading a little bit easier if I go into Zen mode. So if you joined only recently, I'm working on the course materials for a course that I'm going to start next week. On Thursday evening, I'm going to start with basic Linux system administration, and if you're interested in what this course entails and how you can Join us free of charge. It's going to be live streamed on 3 different platforms. Then simply enter the command !Linux course, all in one word, into chat, and you'll get the URL of the website that explains everything in detail. !Linux course, just like in the stream title. Okay. I think we should have a few more slides here. Shouldn't we? Maybe. Excuse me. It's that time of day when I start getting tired. Let me see those slides again. Wait, how is this? Structured kernel versus user space. Yeah, let's move that to the beginning of this section. Nope. Yeah. Here. Yeah, okay. And then we should have another block for this. Maybe there's one down here as well. Yeah. Okay, that is just positioned a little bit awkward. So let's move those to the beginning. Yeah, that makes much more sense. I almost started creating new blocks simply because they were not at the beginning of the section. System processes. The only thing I'm missing is, I think, another nifty thing that I managed to build using Jekyll, and that's a teleprompter crawl generated from this text. So basically a website, white on black, very narrow in terms of the content width, and with JavaScript that allows me to automatically scroll through the content and basically read from a teleprompter. That's something that I haven't built into this here yet, because it's starting to get a little bit complicated in terms of layouts and different CSS stylings and things like that, but it might be worth the effort to integrate that as well. Because of course, eventually I'm going to turn this into video content as well. Oh, there is another thing that I'd like to try. If someone could simply enter a question. Maybe you actually have a question that you'd like to ask me using the !Q command. Just Q for question, !Q, and then your question behind that. I'd like to see if that gets queued automatically for me to answer them, because that will make running the course even easier. Even though I'm going to use Vvox as my interaction platform, where we'll have a Q&A board dedicated to answering questions, it might still be an interesting additional feature to be able to simply enter !Q with a question, and that then gets automatically displayed for me here, and I can go through questions by the click of a button. And I've set something up for that. I'm not sure if it works. So if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, even though it's not my Friday office hour stream yet, you could help me out and try and help me verify if this is working. Okay, that's Linux architecture, command line basics, which is definitely an important section, especially on the first day when we've set up our Linux VM and go into the terminal for the first time. Yeah. Yeah, making that the first command after having everyone set up their VM would be a little bit cruel, don't you think? Congratulations, you've set up your first Linux VM. Enter this command, and now you can install your second Linux VM. Pretty sure the number of participants of that course would drop significantly in an instant. Praxair is coming from an OPSEC point of view. They get a warning and they learn a valuable lesson about trust. It's actually not the kernel that gives them that warning. It's the rm command itself that will, I think, issue a warning. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will, because I got that warning when I tried to delete whole directories in the past. Pixel Buttercup joining into the teachable moment topic. I mean, you're not completely wrong, yeah. Definitely teach them. You know what? I might actually add a slide with this specific topic. Where would this fit? I mean, we already have a warning about RM. I'll find a point where I'll be able to weave that in. That's a useful hint, yeah. Just have them delete something that will be restored on reboot, like all their PTYs or something. I mean, yeah. Or at least a single file or something. Because it is a valid concern that the terminal can be very, very powerful. That's why we use it day by day. And so making that point that there's a huge potential of shooting yourself in the foot is definitely something worthwhile. Running out of tea here. Okay, let's get back to slides here though. Terminal basics, yes. Terminal navigation. Yeah, those blocks are already quite good. See that warning block here also gets rendered nicely. If we go into command line basics, scroll down to the RM command, then this results in a caution block nicely highlighted in red. Okay. Editing is an important chapter as well. It's a whole chapter or a whole section about Vim, of course. And if you're not familiar with Vim yet, this page will actually give you a pretty good overview into its features and how to use it effectively. And that page is actually public on courses.monospacementor.com. So if you go there and into Lindsys 1, the basic Linux system administration course, module 1, section 5 is the Vim introduction. And I've built it specifically as a standalone tutorial that guides you through all important features of Vim. So by the end, you should have a pretty good knowledge of all the basics that you need to work with text in Vim. It's a little mini course within the course. That's supposed to be a block quote. That way it gets highlighted. I was confused for a moment because this important block gets syntax highlighted in my editor, while this one up here, the knowledge block up here, doesn't. And that's simply because I haven't made them block quotes. It shouldn't have any effect on the actual rendering. So let's go into text editing. There's the knowledge block, and then here's the important block. They get rendered as usual, but in writing, having them highlighted specifically is helpful for me. So I definitely should take extra caution to make those block quotes. Nice. See, I didn't even notice that in previous going overs. Again, can someone enter a question in chat, regardless of which platform you're using? Exclamation mark Q space and then enter a question, just so I can see if it gets queued as a question here in my system, where I can easily toggle through questions then, especially during a course stream like the one I'm going to do on Thursday next week, when we are starting this course, Basic Linux System Administration. Or do I have to do that myself? I guess I'll have to do it myself. Why me? Let's see if this works. Oh, see? Pixel Buttercup. And it does not get queued automatically, does it? Let me see if I... Nope. However, is there even a queue in here? Let me just see if someone is not right here. I don't even get the queuing. UI. That is strange. Let me check my configuration, because that is really strange. Doc. I'm distracted by my own setup here. And Yeah, no, I'm distracted by my own setup because, yeah, Pixel Buttercup submitted a question with exclamation mark Q, and not only didn't it get queued in my chat management, it even doesn't even display a queue. Wait a second, I can, of course, queue. No. That is confusing. Let's see. Alt-click to pin. Wait, control-click. So, oh, yeah. When I manually queue something, then I get the queue. UI? Okay. Pixel Buttercup, could you just repeat your question again? Just to see if it now gets queued. Oh, wait. I know why it doesn't get queued. Okay. Give me just a second. Yeah, my setup is wrong. We need to do stuff. Need to make a few changes here. Well, there's my daughter. I think they're trying to get inside, so just take a short break. I'll be right back. All right. Let me build proper communication here. Do not show bot messages. Yep. That looks good. Let's see. Self queue. Let's auto queue questions. Yep, that looks good. So if I do this. And
Can't even see anything.
you can't. That's correct. Because I'm not showing it on... I can't even show it on screen anyway, because it's not on the shared screen. I'm still fiddling with the question queuing. Something I wanted to do is the scale. Where's the scale option? Hydrate, thank you. Oh, and Proxeus redeemed RTFM. Why did it play can't see anything? Okay, thanks for the hydrate. I need something else now because I've emptied my cup. Posture check, thank you for that as well. Always good. You redeemed RTFM, but it played can't see anything. That is not correct. Okay, let me fix one thing first after the other. Visibility. Where is the scale feature? Actually, I don't know, and I'll just add it to the URL myself. Scale 1.5. So that should actually do. Let me write my own question. Yes, it gets auto-queued. Awesome. Okay. So we need to store that as a bookmark. Edit bookmark. Whoop-de-doo. Oh, nice. And then I can simply go through the queue, press this once, then I get my own question, and press it another time, and we'll get Proxeus' question. Okay, that is nice. Now, that's that. Let's move you over here. Like this. Okay, second issue. RTFM did not trigger correctly, which is controlled where? Oh dear, where have we set up all that stuff? Is that here? Yes, that is wired incorrectly. We need... Wait. This should actually not be enabled over here. Now, let me check my alerts. Channel points. Oh, RTFM isn't really set up at all here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's add that here. RTFM. Okay. Save. So next time we should get an alert for RTFM as well, not just a chat message. And let's see. You requested RFC 3092. G-Bone, thank you for the follow. So some alerts do work. This is a professional operation. All right, so let me get my ducks in a row here. Yep, I think we can do that. I just do the definition and yeah, it's only... Yeah, there isn't an appendix, but that's not too interesting. So yeah, how do we play this? So, before we get back into doing my stuff, I will redeem Praxeus's channel point reward RTFM. And the text he requested was RFC 3092. So get your clip buttons ready. RFC 3092, a dramatic reading. Etymology of foo. April 1st, 2001. Status of this memo. This memo provides information for the Internet community. It does not specify an Internet standard of any kind. Distribution of this memo is unlimited. Copyright The Internet Society 2001, all rights reserved. Abstract, approximately 212 RFCs so far, starting with RFC 269, contain the terms foo, bar or foobar as metasyntactic variables without any proper explanation or definition. This document rectifies that deficiency. Section 1, Introduction. Approximately 212 RFCs, or about 7% of RFCs issued so far, starting with RFC 269, contain the terms foo, bar or foobar used as a metasyntactic variable without any proper explanation or definition. This may seem trivial, but a number of newcomers, especially if English is not their native language, have had problems in understanding the origin of those terms. This document rectifies that deficiency. Section 2 below describes the definition and etymology of these words, and Section 3 interprets them as acronyms. As an appendix, we include a table of RFC occurrences of these words as metasyntactic variables. Section 2, Definition and Etymology. Bar. Item 1. The second metasyntactic variable after foo and before baz. For example, quote, suppose we have two functions, foo and bar, foo calls bar, so on and so on. Item 2, often appended to foo to produce foo bar. One, interjection term of disgust. Number 2, used very generally as a sample name for absolutely anything, especially programs and files, especially Scratch files. 3. First on the standard list of metasyntactic variables used in syntax examples: bar, baz, crux, quooks, corge, grald, garply, waldo, fred, plow, xyzzy, thud. When used in connection with bar, it is generally traced to the World War II era Army slang acronym FUBAR, fucked up beyond all repair, later modified to foobar. Early versions of the jargon file interpreted this change as a post-war Bowdlerization, but it now seems more likely that foobar was itself a derivative of foo, perhaps influenced by German furchtbar, terrible. Foobar may actually have been the original form. 4. It seems the word foo itself had an immediate pre-war history in comic strips and cartoons. In the 1938 Warner Brothers cartoon directed by Robert Clampett, the Daffy Duck, a very early version of Daffy Duck holds up a sign saying "Silence is foo." Foo and bar also occurred in Walt Kelly's Pogo strips. The earliest documented uses were in the surrealist Smokey Stover comic strip by Bill Holman about a fireman. This comic strip appeared in various American comics, including Everybody's, between about 1930 and 1952. It frequently included the word foo on license plates of cars, in nonsense sayings in the background of some frames, such as He who foos last foos best, or many smoke but foo men chew, and had Smokey say, where there's foo, there's fire. Bill Holman, the author of the strip, filled it with odd jokes and personal contrivances, including other nonsense phrases such as notary sodchak and 1506 nix nix. According to the Warner Brothers cartoon companion, Holman claimed to have found the word foo on the bottom of a Chinese figurine. This is plausible. Chinese statuettes often have apotropaic inscriptions, and this may have been the Chinese word fu, sometimes transliterated FOO, which can mean happiness when spoken with a proper tone. The lion dog guardians flanking the steps of many Chinese restaurants are properly called foo dogs. English speakers' reception of Holman's foo nonsense word was undoubtedly influenced by Yiddish fe and English fooey and fool. Holman's strip featured a fire truck called the Foo-mobile that rode on two wheels. The comic strip was tremendously popular in the late 1930s, and legend has it that a manufacturer in Indiana even produced an operable version of Holman's Foo-mobile. According to the Encyclopedia of American Comics, Foo fever swept the US, finding its way into popular songs and generating over 500 Foo clubs. The fad left Foo references embedded in popular culture, including the couple of appearances in Warner Brothers cartoons of 1938 to 39, but with their origins rapidly forgotten. One place they are known to have remained live is in the US military during the World War II years. In 1944 to 45, the term Foo Fighters was in use by radar operators for the kind of mysterious or spurious trace that would later be called a UFO. The older term resurfaced in popular American usage in 1995 via the name of one of the better grunge rock bands. Informants connected the term to the Smokey Stover strip. The US and British militaries frequently swapped slang terms during the war. Period sources reported that Foo became a semi-legendary subject of World War II British Army graffiti, more or less equivalent to the American Kilroy. Where British troops went, the graffito "Foo was here" or something similar showed up. Several slang dictionaries aver that Foo probably came from Forward Observation Officer, but this, like the contemporaneous FUBAR, was probably a backronym. 40 years later, Paul Dickinson's excellent word books traced Foo to an unspecified British naval magazine in 1946, quoting as follows, quote, "Mr. Foo is a mysterious Second World War product gifted with bitter omniscience and sarcasm." End quote. Earlier versions of the jargon file suggested the possibility that hacker usage actually sprang from Foo, Lampoons and Parody, the title of a comic book first issued in September 1958, a joint project of Charles and Robert Crumb. Though Robert Crumb, then in his mid-teens, later became one of the most important and influential artists in underground comics, this venture was hardly a success. Indeed, the brothers later burned most of the existing copies in disgust. The title Foo was featured in large letters on the front cover. However, very few copies of this comic actually circulated, and students of Crumb's oeuvre had established that this title was a reference to the earlier Smokey Stover comics. The Crumbs may also have been influenced by a short-lived Canadian parody magazine named Foo, published in 1951-52. An old-time member reports that in the 1959 Dictionary of the TMRC language, compiled at TMRC, the Tech Model Railroad Club at MIT, there was an entry for Foo. The current online version, in which Foo is the only word coded to appear read, has the following. Foo, the sacred syllable, Foo mani padme hum, to be spoken only when under obligation to commune with the deity. Our first obligation is to keep the Foo counters turning. This definition used Bill Holman's nonsense word, then only 2 decades old and demonstrably still live in popular culture and slang, to make a ha-ha only serious analogy with esoteric Tibetan Buddhism. Today's hackers would find it difficult to resist elaborating a joke like that, and it is not likely 1959s were any less susceptible. Explanation 4. Prince Foo was the last ruler of Febor and owner of the Fee helm about 400 years before the reign of Antharion. When Foo was beheaded by someone he called an Eastern fop from Bor-Fee, the glorious age of Febor ended and Bor-Fee rose to the prominence it now enjoys. Number 5. A 13th to 16th century usage for the devil or any other enemy. The earliest citation it gives is from the year 1366, Chaucer ABC, "Lat not our alder Foo, devil, make his bobbins boast." Chaucer's Foo is probably related to modern English foe. And 6. Rare species of dog, a Spitz-type dog discovered to exist after having long been considered extinct. The Chinese Foo dog, or sacred dog of Xinjiang, may have originated through a crossing of northern European hunting dogs and the ancient Chow Chow from Mongolia, or be the missing link between the Chinese wolf and the Chow Chow. It probably derives its name from Fu Chao, or the kind of style prevalent in Fu Chao, of or from the city of Fu Chao, now Minhao, in southeast China. I will leave the rest of the reading to the audience. So this was a dramatic reading of RFC 3092. Thank you, Praxeus. Yes, I hope you were properly educated and can now employ the Fu in a more effective manner. Okay. Let us proceed to section 6 in the first module of next week's Linux administration course, which is Essential Shell Features. I think I'm going to simply go over quickly to make sure we have all the slides that we need. There is certainly a pipes slide as well. Let's move that up here so I have an easier time finding those. Wait, what did I just do? That's the redirection operators. Yeah. That should be at the top of the redirection section. And the general data stream slide goes up here. All right. That's pipes. Pipe commands. Move that here. Command substitution. Scope. Environment variables. All right. That should be it. Let's say chore lin sys 1. Slide edits. Oh yeah, git identity monospace. Git push. Okay, that will get the site deployed, but I just noticed that there are errors on line 9 in 103, which seems to be right at the beginning. Oh yeah, slides. It's not slides, it's slider, because it's just a single one. Yep. So let's say fix lin sys1, fix slide block, and CD will immediately make sure that fix gets rolled out as well. We're heavily dropping frames. Maybe my connection isn't great anymore. Which would be a good time to stop anyway. Yeah. So, looks like we're lacking bandwidth here. All right, we are done with the course material editing anyway, so I think this is a good point to stop. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow with my office hour at 2 p.m. Dublin time, 3 p.m. Berlin time. And I hope to see you in my Linux course. Let me get that out for you as well. So the exclamation mark Linux course command gives you all the information you need to participate in my free Linux system administration course that's going to start Thursday next week. And I hope to see you tomorrow to my office hour, or maybe next week in our Linux course. And of course, there will be hopefully live streams as well. So until then, take care.